Hello class, today we are going to be learning about safe debt loads. And so your goal today is that you can determine if a scenario is a safe debt load or an unsafe debt load following the 2010 rule. So in our nation, we use a lot of credit, and there is a lot of different points of view on using that credit. Now, when we're looking at this, this is looking at personal credit use. It is not looking at like our government use of credit, but it is a compilation of the credit being used as a population. So you can see right now we're looking at almost $18 trillion in debt if we look at every person in the United States. Now, a large portion of that is coming from housing debt, so mortgages, but we can see that since about 2014, that the gap between the total debt, the top of the red line, and the blue line is getting wider, which means that non-housing debt is increasing. Now, this can be due to a lot of things. Non-housing debt includes student loans and car payments, and the cost of both of those has increased. So people that choose to get their car on credit are getting larger loans, and people that are going to college are needing more student loans than they had previously. Some of it is that we are using our credit cards more. One thing that this includes is they just looked at the balances, and that means that some people's balances are included on this, even if they're paying off those balances every month. Our second graph here, we have a picture of each of the states, and they're all color-coded. This is showing us the amount of average credit card debt in each state. So you can see that Utah falls in the middle. Places like California, Alaska, Florida, New York, some other places on the East Coast have some of the highest debt. They're close to an average of $10,000 at the end of a month. And this middle section here is the lowest, but they still had an average of $5,000 in credit card debt every month. Now, again, these numbers do include people who put a whole bunch of expenses on their credit card and pay it off every month, but it also includes people that are putting money on their credit card and paying it in small amounts and paying it over time. Now, the good news is that less than half are carrying a credit card balance, meaning they don't pay it off on month 1 and they're paying it off on month 2 or 3 or 10 or 15. So these would be kind of the scenarios you were looking at when you did the minimum payments. The blue side is people that are paying off their credit card every single time. All right, now we want to know how we can use credit responsibly and how we can use credit to build our credit score. And so there's some different ways that you can do that. One of those ways is to follow the 2010 rule. The 2010 rule is a guideline for managing the amount of debt that you have, includes your car loans, student loans, credit cards, and other types of debt, but does not include your mortgage. Now, the idea for this 2010 rule links back to a budget called the 50-30-20 budget that we did not get to talk about. This budget says that 50% of your expenses goes towards your needs. Your food, we need a house, we need a phone to be able to do some of the tasks that we're required to do. Wants would be 30% of your budget, and savings and debt would be the remaining 20% of your budget. So we don't want to be using all 20% of that to our debt because we want to be saving money as well. We also don't want to be dipping into our needs and making that category smaller, or really our wants. We want to be able to enjoy our life, so this is going to help us follow a balance. Now, what the 20 rule says, 2010 rule is that your maximum total debt, not including your housing, because that lands in your needs category, is going to be 20% of your annual net pay. Your maximum monthly payments are going to be 10% of your monthly net pay. So I think on your notes packet, your maximum total debt says like maximum annual debt. And we do want that to be your total. So at any time, we're looking at 20% of that net pay. Now, as we've mentioned, this is a guideline. There have been times in my life where I have not followed this guideline, particularly when it comes to cars. It's important to me to have a reliable car, and there were times that meant that I was using some of my needs category to make that car payment. Now, for the purposes of your assignment, we are going to follow this to exactly the value, even if it's close or even if there is a valid justification for going over the guidelines. Now, our formulas for this are to first calculate your annual income and change that to your net annual income. So you're going to take the gross pay that will be given to you in the problem, and you're going to times it by the percent of take-home pay. So instead of calculating the taxes and insurance and the net pay that way, you're going to be just given a percentage. And that's going to give you the annual net income. Then you're going to calculate the monthly income. So then you're just taking the net income you found in the first square and dividing it by 12. And this will give you the monthly net income. Then it's time to apply the 2010 part of this rule. So the 20 part of the rule is to take your annual net income and times it by 20%. And for the maximum monthly payments, you're going to take the box above it, the monthly net income, and times that by 10%. So when you're doing these two bottom rows, you're taking the answer from the box above it and timesing it by either 20% or 10% to get your answer. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Adam's take-home pay is 83% of his gross pay. If his annual gross salary is $42,000, what is his maximum total debt and max monthly payments using the 2010 rule? So first you're going to go to your first box here, and you're going to calculate the annual net pay. So you're going to take the two numbers that are given to you, $42,000 and 83%, and you're going to multiply those two values. Net pay is always less than gross pay, so you should get a number that is smaller than what you started with. If you get an answer that's bigger, you did something wrong in your calculator or you're using the wrong operation. Okay. So when I put that in my calculator, I got $34,860. That's the amount of money that Adam has to spend and to budget with. So we're going to break that down into his monthly pay by dividing by 12. So we took our answer, divided it by 12. Every month, Adam has $2,905 to spend. The next thing we want to do is apply the 2010 rule. So the 20 part of the 2010 rule is going to apply to the annual pay. We're taking $34,860, timesing that by 20%, and Adam can have debt up to $6,972 to keep it in a manageable amount. On the right-hand side, we go back to our monthly value, $2,905, times that by 10% is going to give you $290.50. So this is the most that Adam can really pay in those monthly payments and still be able to meet some savings goals and balance his needs and his wants. Now, our question is it reasonable for Adam to have $200 in monthly debt payments? So this is a monthly debt payment. I'm comparing it to his max monthly payment. Because $200 is smaller than $290.5, then yes, this is a safe amount of debt for Adam. All right, I'm going to have the sub pause the video here, and I would like you to try this problem. I'm going to give you just a couple minutes to work on it, and then come back and check your work. All right, let's check your answers. So Alex take-home pay, it was 90% of his gross pay. He earns a salary of $10,000, and we want to know what he can afford to borrow or use in credit. So the annual net pay came out to $9,000. You just took the $10,000 times the 90%. The monthly net pay was taking the answer, the 9,000 divided by 12. His monthly net pay is $750. His maximum total debt is taking the 9,000, the annual, and timesing it by 20%. He can have $1,800 in debt, but his monthly payment should not exceed $75. So is it reasonable for Alex to have a $100 credit card payment for a new phone? And because $100 is more than his maximum monthly payments, we would say no, that's too much. Now, his max total debt, he's probably looking at a phone that is less than $1,800, but because of his monthly payments, this would not be a safe amount of debt. For your assignment today, you're going to go through, complete the assignment. You're going to go check your answers in the answer key. On this assignment, the entire front page is just the calculations. There is no yes or no question at the end. The back page is going to be like what's in your notes, where you do the calculations and then you need to answer, is this a safe amount of debt or not? Correct your assignment, fix any mistakes, and then log on to Canvas, turn in your assignment, and then I will put an extension assignment on Canvas that you need to work on after turning in your assignment.